Welcome to Lego City Action, number 3 of our series on the Lego layout. The layout has had a genesis from back in the old days when I had my Echo Mountain layout, then Echo Lakes 1 and 2, and now it's got the Lego layout on top of it. So you don't ever throw anything away. Well, in my case I don't. But this is the only table that fits through my door, so that's why I maintain it. So as you can see, I still use the multi-use foam board on all my layouts, but I've learnt one thing. You get a lot of very fine fibre coming off it. Not carcinogenic, but still, it clings to everything. So gloves, long sleeves, respirator, and of course earmuffs, because of the router noise. So I just laid out the basic Lego boards to see how they fit. As it turned out, I had to shave probably 2 or 3 buttons worth off one side so they'd fit. So this was a first idea, but it didn't go ahead. I changed it in the end. So I had to measure the centre of the roadways on the boards, both the inner circle and the outer one, and then transpose that onto the board with my blue bendable tool there. This gives you a rough idea of how it worked, with the brown one for the larger vehicles and the green one for the smaller vehicles. And that special little kink I'll explain later to you. So here we have the outside run. Both circuits have 2 motors on them. Because Lego is that bit heavier than the HO scale that we normally deal in, I've used 2 motors on both circuits. But both these circuits combined is about, well, you can see there, 397, just under 400, which is two sets, 2 starter sets, and I'd use the slider sets because they have the fast motor on them. Cutting out the sprue, you get 5 packs of these with your starter sets, which gives you equivalent of about 220 centimetres with return loops, or about 195 centimetre round circuit without any return loops. So what I do, I chip off all the extensions on the side, and then I router the exact size and depth of the channel so it slots in perfectly in the channel. Just a reminder, we go all over the world. Those funny bits that you get, they connect the motor housing, and of course after you've cut all the sprue off, you'll have a surplus of these because there's a set on every blow moulded section, so you'll end up with a stack which regrettably can't be used. Just ensure that everything's level. I suppose that's the key thing, that everything is flush with the board, so there's nothing sticking up that can later on cause problems. And yes, I do need to get a new pair of side cutters. I don't know, I've been cutting wire. I don't think that was the problem. Should really have a pair just for the plastic. But it's not an overly hard time. It takes a few minutes to go through and chop it all off. If you want to, you can leave all this on and secure it to the board. Especially with the Lego, it's not so much a drama because the Lego boards on top are quite rigid. But when you're having to put laminate or any surface on top, you've got a raised bed just balancing on top of it. So I find that it's better to countersink everything into the foam board. But as I said, you can get away with just screwing this straight onto a board with the Lego on top. You probably just need something underneath on the corners to give it a bit of stability. But either way, it'll work. And that was the amazing thing that I found with Lego. The actual board is about, I think it's up later, about 1.7 or 1.9 mil thick, which is quite thick for Lego, for Magnorail, because I usually recommend about 0.5 or so. So as you can see, it clicks together very easily, and it's like a snake. You can bend it around. You can't do 45-degree sharp turns, but the channeling is very, very flexible. So as I said, 2 slider starter sets, an extra motor on each, so that's another 2 motors, and you can duplicate what we've done here. So you can see where the motors are fairly evenly placed around the board. So the next part is getting all the chain in, and as you can see on the left hand side here, it's a bit wiggly, and really that's not satisfactory. So I have worked on that and put in some smaller sizes, because the chain does come in various sizes. So you just keep swapping until you get that reasonably tight, so there's no slack, but also so that it's not so tight that it'll pull out of the channeling. But you should be able to just lay that flat, run it up and go full bore without it coming out. So there you can see, so you can whip around now without any kinking and without jumping out of the track. There you have both of the tracks operating smoothly. The motors are synced, so if you buy 2 fast motors, you'll know that they'll operate at the same speed. Do note that I've put the acetate over the motor housings, and this is done to prevent the chain from riding up, because it's pushing against those 2 O-rings all the time. So it's imperative that you do that, and you'll see later on that you are supplied with screws that are flathead and countersunk. So as you can see, they can be screwed right in. Don't use the rounded ones that come to hold the track down. These are specifically in your motor housing kit, and they're there to try and get a smooth surface for you. And this basically just keeps everything together, because if something's going to go wrong, this is the pinch point. This is where it's going to pop out. Now with the Lego, I've done some experimenting. This is an early stage, but I was able to do what I call the double magnet one, which involved a Q, an S and 2R chain links. But I found later on that really you can get away with just 1 magnet at the front, and my project after this video is to try and get a standardized fitting with a standard magnet, so we can just sell them as a ready-made kit for people to add to their vehicles, crocodiles, sharks, boats, you name it. We've got it all going. I'm quite pleased how this has all sort of come together. The one thing with your chain, you can see that arrow, the rounded piece has to go with the arrow. So because this is highly engineered, the guys that invented this have thought it through, and the optimum pulling power and also least friction is to have the rounded section facing forward, or forward the way that you intend running your chain. So take note of that, ensure that you do try to work that. So there we have it, 1.76 millimeters, 176 millimeters, sorry, 1.6, no, 1.76 millimeters, yeah. You can see there one magnet into the drive section. Now, the trouble with Lego, every single one of the pieces are different. Different size wheels, different dimensions. The quad bikes are different. They've got a newer attachment for the wheels. So we've had to adapt for that as well. Some of the older Lego with the wheels are no problem. The motorbikes I had to modify, and that involved grinding a Lego link down to be able to get the clearance on the road. The old police bike, I'm just trying a bit of blue tack and a magnet on it to get the right area, and I'll work out what magnets will need to go. There we have the first trial with the quad bike and the space hopper chasing after them. So part of the magic of Magnorail is you've got to create things that people aren't expecting. So I had this accident zone detour set up with a tow truck and an overturned car. The tow truck's a bit heavy to be able to be going around, but it just creates a bit of interest because people see them coming up and they think, well, what's going to happen? And they go round the detour. The detour signs I just made and printed out a sticker on the printer and stuck it on some Lego. You can see the tow truck there, and everyone else goes around the side of it and comes out the other side. You'll also note that corner has been ground down. Now I ground that down, took off the buttons on that corner and then filled it and painted it, because the likes of the hot rod and some of the vehicles towing trailers would cut corners. Now I could probably get away with it if I'd sort of mapped it out and thought and taken the track in on a sharper curve. But I think this way it's all right. It doesn't detract from the whole setup, and it was easily fixed. There's the hot rod and some of the old Lego, the old racing cars were in a set. My kids had hundreds of pieces of Lego growing up. There you see the hot rod coming around. You see him cut that corner. So that's one of the problems. But if you're using all the small vehicles, no problems. They can move around quite easily. As I said, if you want to subscribe, please do so.